All right, so once we've got the brace breath in place, we want to talk about creating what I refer to as systemic tightness. So getting really, really rigid to make sure that when we produce energy into the floor, that it all gets into the barbell. If you watch the other videos, fast forward 15 seconds, an analogy I like to use for this is the pool noodle versus the plank of wood. So if I took a pool noodle, I put it on the back of Jess's back and just bang on the end of that pool noodle, not much is going to transfer through to the other side because it's soft. All the energy is going to dissipate before it actually gets to the other end. If I did that with a plank of wood, Jess is probably going to turn around and smack me in the mouth because it's going to hurt, because that wood is rigid and all of that force is going to transfer directly into Jess's back. When we do any of these heavy lifts, including the deadlift, we want to make sure we have that maximum rigidity. So when we push our feet into the floor, all of that energy transfers through our body and into the barbell. That's going to allow us to move the most weight. It's going to allow us to be the most safe, prevent injury, and put PBs on the board. So how do we do that? All right, so obviously we know about the brace breath now. There's a few other tricks that we want to do in our setup to make sure that we start in the best position. Where you start in your deadlift is more than likely going to affect where you finish. So really, really important to find that tension before you pull off the floor. So Jess is going to come down. We're going to talk about her feet first. So as we talked about earlier, big toe, little toe, and the heel all making solid contact. If our feet are lifting up, we're imbalanced and we're going to lose heaps of energy. So we've got nice, tight, full foot pressure into the ground. We're going to grab hold of the bar. Jess is going to do this all at once, but as you practice, you might do these one at a time and just feel them. But what we're going to do is think about turning the thighs away from each other. Some people use the knees into the elbows cue, which I don't mind. Just if you're not very good at tightness, you can just move your knees around and not actually get any tension in the hip. So what we're going to think about is quads away from each other, create external rotation, which tightens up the hip. And we're going to think about driving our shoulder blade, our armpits into our back pockets. Jess likes the cue to squeeze a playing card under your armpit, which works really, really well. And you can see as soon as Jess does that, all the musculature lights up and she's created this nice tense position. Jess would do this all with one breath and lock that all into place. As she presses off the floor, that all stays the same and she moves through the whole movement. Now, if we miss any of these, if we miss the feet, we're going to get sloppy through the hip. Once we're sloppy through the hip, then we have more tension through the upper body. That's going to pull us out of position and we get this super ugly lift. So when we say that your starting position determines where you finish in deadlift, this is what we're talking about. If we don't have that good both positioning and tension, lots can go wrong throughout the rest of the lift. And people will start working on lockout or upper back strength and all these kind of issues that show up when really you just weren't either tight enough or in a good enough position off the floor. Generally speaking, if you can achieve really good tension off the floor, you're also in a really good position. So instead of stressing too much about where are my hips, where are my knees, where are all of those things, just make sure are my hips tight, my feet planted, do I have my brace breath and are my lats engaged? So am I pulling my shoulders down? If you have all of those things, 9 times out of 10, your setup's looking really good as well. So that's setting up on the floor to find tightness. In the next video, we're going to talk about some cues to maintain that throughout the entire lift.